that you're here, and I think it's these next few weeks are important weeks as we talk about navigating relationships. And I know that there are different people in this room, and some of you have been married to the same person for years, and some of you might be in here and maybe you're working on your second marriage or your third or your 23rd. And let me just tell you, there's no judgment at Oasis for failed relationships. We just want to give you some tools to help you navigate the next one. And then there's some of you in here dating, and some of you who are single who hope to be in a relationship, and there's some of you maybe you just come through a heartbreak. You just had a relationship fail. I'm just saying we're going to give you some tools to navigate the season that you're in. Philip and I are passionate about teaching about relationships because we realize that at the end of our life, most of us really aren't going to be looking back at the stuff. We're going to be looking back at the people that we did life with, at the relationships that have been entrusted to us. So we love talking about it. In fact, tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to be in a very fun kind of format, and Philip and I'll be up here together, and we're going to be interviewed, and people are asking us questions. So if you have a question that you want Philip and I to answer and about relationships, you can text the question. I think they've got a phone number up there for you, and some of them have already come through. Some people are asking questions about online dating, and what do we think about that? And then somebody asked, is there just one person for you? And so they've asked that question, and then some people a young married couple said, how do you argue in a relationship that isn't destructive? So we're going to offer some practical tools tonight just in a question and answer format, and I think there's some random game we're going to play. So of course we will. It's Sunday night. So great relationships don't just happen, and they don't happen because you want one. They don't happen because you hope to have one. They happen because you do the work to have one. Relationships in marriage can be absolutely amazing or devastating. Which direction is yours headed in? And I know that, as Philip mentioned, a lot of people have a fear today about relationships because of what they see around you. And they just wonder, does love really work? I want to let you know, love works. Love works. Real love works. Proverbs 24:3 says this, through skillful and godly wisdom is a house. And the word that's translated house actually means a life, a home, and a family. Through skillful and godly wisdom is a house, a life, home, and family built. And by understanding, it's established on a sound and good foundation. And by knowledge shall its chambers of every area be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So we're going to offer some wisdom. In every area of your life, every area, if you want to get to where you want to go, it's going to take some wisdom, and it will take a lot of work. There was a song written by Lionel Richie, and the song was called Hello. Anybody remember that song? And Philip, for some reason, was playing it the other day, and so we were listening to the lyrics, and if you listen to the lyrics of that song, there's one part of it, and it says, hello, I wish I could sing it. Is it me you're looking for? Hello, is it me you're looking for? And then later on in the song, it says, tell me how to win your heart, because I haven't got a clue. That is not good. See, if a person doesn't have a clue, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for someone who has a clue, right? So we're going to give you today a clue, right? Over the next few weeks, a clue so that you won't be singing that song. So whatever you want to get to, you're here, and to get to you're there, it's going to take some wisdom and some work. If you want to build muscles, when you build muscles, you probably all start out looking a little bit like this guy on the screen, like this. Good intention. But for him to move from this to this, serious work. I'm pretty sure you don't get muscles like that just by going, ooh, I hope I get muscles. Ooh, I hope I get muscles. Ooh, I wish, and I hope I'm going to write in my journal, I hope I get muscles. No, there's some work involved in that. And Philip and I, when we first got married, we looked like this. Here we are. I know. It's the 80s. Cut me some slack right now. That's all I'm saying. So when we first got married, we're looking at each other like that. He's probably singing all of me right there. So we start with all these great intentions, and yes, I do. And ultimately, we hope to look like this. This is the age progression. Yeah. See, but to get from the I do to this couple is going to take a little bit of work. There is nobody gets married thinking that they're not going to grow old with that person. So there are some decisions we have to make, some work we have to do to make that journey. Some counselors say that when couples are dating, they're drawn together by a number of forces. And, one of them is physical attraction, the way they look, the way they kiss. That worked for me. And some are, common interests, music, art, movies. For us, it was ministry. But primarily, people are drawn to each other because they make each other feel good about themselves. And there's a real technical, scientific term for this, feel-good attraction, and it's called warm fuzzies. And when a couple gets married, over time, and even in the best of marriages, a husband and a wife can get to the point where they don't feel good about each other anymore. They start to get irritated with one another. They begin to argue over all kinds of issues, and they begin to take each other for granted or maybe even misuse each other. And the bond that once held them together isn't there because they've fallen out of the habit of giving each other those warm fuzzies. Well, I appreciate that warm fuzzy feeling that you all feel when you first started dating. That's what took you to the altar. But that's actually not going to take you to your gray-headed self. That self is going to actually need to know how to develop real love. And that's what we're talking about today. John 13, verse 34 says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, you must love one another." This is Jesus talking, and he's saying that we're to love one another. Not how we might have experienced love from other people, or not how we have loved, but we're to love by the standard Jesus set in loving us. And really, it has very little to do with how you feel. Love is not a feeling. Love is a verb. Love is what you do, oftentimes in spite of what you're feeling. And we all might define love differently. But here in this verse, as Jesus is talking about how we're to love each other, he's not talking about this fluffy, warm, fuzzy kind of love. It's less like the romance from Twilight, or even Romeo and Juliet, and more like Oscar Schindler and Schindler's List, as he laid down his life to see people rescued. Do you remember that? See, Jesus is saying we're supposed to have that lay your life down kind of love. Now, the word that's translated for love in these verses is the word agape. And it is also the word used in John 3:16 when it describes God's love for us. For God so loved the world, he agaped the world, that he sent his son. So see, his love for us was intense and consuming. And that's the kind of love he's asking us to love one another. A love based on commitment, not emotion. And then Jesus, he just pushes it always. He just has to go there. And in Matthew 5, verse 43, he says, "You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." So here's the deal. No matter what your spouse might feel like at the moment, friend or enemy, you're to love them with the same kind of love, that agape kind of love. So that's awesome, Holly. That's just really great. I think I'll write that down in my little journal. I'll type that in my little phone. To make sure I love with that agape love. Because it's so much easier to write it down than to do it, right? And so now I just want to give you some practical ways. What does that look like? What does it mean to love with that lay your life down kind of love? All right. Well, Philippians 2:3 is one of the practical ways that you can walk this out. It says this: "Do nothing out of selfish ambition." Ooh, that could preach right there. "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves." And another translation says, "Don't be jealous or proud, but be humble and consider others more important than yourselves." So rather than us considering those others out there, that verse is talking about all those other people out there, let's consider our spouse as that other person. And let's see how we can consider them as better than ourselves. So how do you consider your spouse as more important than you are? And it's not that your needs don't matter. This is just a process. If you're needing encouragement, how about giving it to your spouse first? If you need kind words, how about giving some kind words to them? If you need help, how about giving help? It's just, in a moment, make their needs more important. And then how amazing would it be if we just kept trying to outdo each other? How awesome would that be? Think about a situation where you're not the most important person. Have you ever been to a wedding? If you're not the bride, you're not the most important person, right? Or have you been to a dinner where somebody's getting recognized or getting an award, or just think about how you treat someone and treat that person, who in that moment might be more important. How do you act? Well, you don't interrupt them. You laugh at their jokes even when they're not funny. You defer to them. You just treat them as if they're the most important person. What if we did that to the person we're married to? Wouldn't that be a game changer in the relationship? Or think about this in terms of your family, the one that you grew up in. What if your father had treated your mom as if she was the most important person? How might that have changed your home? Or what if your mom had done that to your dad? Would it have made a difference? See, that's what Jesus did for us. He considered us more important than him, so he gave his life for us. So consider your spouse. Consider their needs just in this moment more important. And then a second thing is, why don't you show interest in what interests them? See, Philippians 2:4 says this, each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And I think this is really hard, because the truth is, I'm interested in what interests me. If it doesn't interest me, I don't want to show interest in it, because then I would already be showing interest in it. So I don't want to be interested in what doesn't interest me, because it's not interesting to me, otherwise I would have already been interested, right? But if we're going to have the love like Jesus did, which says I have to not only look to my own interests, but also to the interests of my spouse, so I'm thinking this means we should proactively express interest in what interests our spouse, rather than just tolerating him. It's different. Now for me, this became baseball. And if you have attended 2 services here, you have learned that Philip is a serious baseball fan. And he's a serious fan of the New York Yankees and the Dodgers. He has an American League team and a National League team. I mean, it's a definite interest of his. So for years, I have gotten him Yankee and Dodger memorabilia as birthday presents, caps and jackets and posters and bobbleheads. What the heck? A bobblehead. What do you do with a bobblehead? I don't know. And then as a surprise one year, I cashed in some miles and I flew him and Jordan to New York to see a Yankee game kind of for their birthday. Awesome. But do you know what he likes the best? That I demonstrate interest. I don't just pat him on the head and say, you go enjoy yourself at that game. No, I know the game. I know the game. I know the players. I know that for the Yankees, I know that Masahiro Tanaka is our new pitching phenom and his record is 5-0. Amazing. And I screamed just as loud, that's a lie, I screamed louder than Philip when Derek Jeter broke Lou Gehrig's record of all-time hits. And I'll be way more sad than Philip when the Yankee Derek Jeter retires this year. I'm passionate about the team and the game. I made a decision to share his interest in the Yankees and in the Dodgers and in baseball. And let me just tell you, it didn't come naturally to me. I am not a... Wow, see, that's a sign of God. He's blessing me. It didn't. Yeah. Woo. It didn't come naturally to me. I wasn't raised in a sports family. Wasn't raised in this country, so we didn't go to American baseball games. I never saw it. It wasn't. It was a decision I made because he's interested in it. I love him. I want to show interest, so I chose that. And then obviously we're both in ministry, so that's an interest we share. That's an easy one to share. But he's interested in other things too, like horses. And I love horses, beautiful. I've ridden them. But he really likes them. Like the smell of a barn is one of his favorite smells. Yeah. I'm pretty much never going to buy that candle. Do you know what I mean? So he loves it. He loves them. He takes lessons and training. Oh, he's into it. So it's awesome. I don't have to share every interest, just some. And then since the interest of your spouse probably changes over the years, after the service today, ask them, what is it that you're interested in? Is there anything new that you're interested in? So love is caring about the interests of your spouse. Do you even know what they are? What is the thing in their life that if you express interest in it, it would totally bless them? Now, all of this might sound hard, but I'm just saying, if you want to have a marriage that 30 years from now has that zing, this is the kind of stuff you have to do. See, a marriage is not a roommate situation where you just divvy up the chores and each of you go do your own thing. No, this is a covenant relationship where we see the other as more important, where we're interested in what interests the other. That is real love. Real love. And real love, thirdly, communicates wisely. Among the top reasons for marriage breakdown, our financial disagreements and sexual frustrations and personality differences. And those are very real. But the deal is, all of those can be dealt with great communication. All of them can be solved with great communication. If you were to move to another country, you would need to learn the language if you were going to actually survive and thrive in that country. Or even better, you would start taking classes before you get there. Well, at some point you will enter the foreign land of marriage. It's a new language. You got to learn to speak it. And for those of you who are unmarried in here, good job taking classes and learning how to speak marriage. Because remember, your spouse, the person you love, speaks a different language, a foreign one. And we communicate differently because we do. And we communicate differently because of a few differences, obviously because of our personality. It's funny to me that if you're an extrovert, 9 times out of 10, you're going to marry an introvert. I don't know if it's because they're the only ones not talking, so it makes it work. And then one of you will probably be people-oriented and the other's project-oriented. One of you is detailed and the other one is just big picture, imagery or... And you know what? One is not better than the other. And any strength taken too far will always become a weakness. And there are people who get energized by people. And people who get energized by solitude. So me, I get energized by people. I love hanging with people. I love talking to people. I love getting their names. I love finding out all about them. I love people. It energizes me. I can be here all day Sunday, and we are, until the end of Sunday night service, and we can get home, and I'm fired up. I'm ready to go out to dinner with somebody and hang out with people. I'm texting people on the way home. You want to go have dinner? I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Now, Philip loves people. He loves being here. He loves you. But at the end of the 6 p.m., he's so done. He doesn't really want to talk to anybody until Monday afternoon. He's like, done. He needs quiet time to recharge him. Neither one's right or wrong. It just is. But you will communicate differently because of it. And if I got frustrated at him because he wouldn't, come on, what's the matter with you? Let's go talk to more people. If I got frustrated at him because of that, big tension. So just respect, this is where we're going to be different, and that's fine. And then we communicate differently because of our background. If you're married to someone who has a different communication style than you, you're normal. See, my family, the one I grew up in, expressed love and support freely, daily. Philip's did not. So we had to learn to be patient with each other because I'm expressing every feeling, and he's like, you can keep some of those thoughts to yourself. And then I would get frustrated because he wasn't expressing his feelings. The journey to be our gray-headed selves. All right. And then we communicate differently just because of gender differences. Women, when you think about men, just think simple. He's not stupid. He's not insensitive. Just think what you want to say and then think of a way to simplify it. Bullet point thing. Wait till all the men said, amen. Okay, so I feel like I'm getting pretty good at this. It's just taken me decades, right? So I've gotten good at this, and I pretty much just bullet point. But every now and then, Philip messes with me, right? So just recently, I just had a meeting with someone. He said, so how did the meeting go? And I went, it went great. We accomplished all that we needed to. Bullet pointed that, right? And then he looks at me and he says, okay. I'm like, what? No, it was great. He goes, no, just treat me like you would a girlfriend. I want to know all the details. I'm like, you're confusing me. So sometimes they want to know more, but wait till they ask. I'm just saying. Okay. Women, we also are intuitive about most things. And so we make the mistake of assuming that men are intuitive. They're not. They're intelligent, they're sensitive, they're kind, they're strong, just not intuitive. And then sometimes women can be over-intuitive. They feel like something is going on when it isn't. Like, what are you thinking? He says, nothing. And we go, come on, what are you thinking? Do you know what I've learned? Is that men can actually think nothing. They can think nothing. Oh, that used to just, how can you think nothing? No woman ever thinks nothing. But they can, and you really become annoying women when you keep pushing there. When he says nothing, okay, weird, but okay. So I'm going to read you a portion out of this book that Philip and I wrote together. We kind of alternated chapters, he said, she said kind of thing. And this is from his a chapter that he wrote. So this is in his voice. So this is him speaking. He says, ladies, you are not going to understand everything about men. And men, you're not going to understand everything about your wives. Take the chewing issue. We're sitting in bed reading at the end of the night, and my wife is snacking. She's eating some kind of chips. It's the loudest noise I've heard all day. I say, excuse me, do you think you can chew more quietly? Holly says, I'm just chewing. There's no volume on chewing. And Philip begins, how can that much noise? And then he suddenly realizes that he's heading for dangerous waters. Come out of such a cute jaw. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying. And then I say, just read, stop picking on me. Sorry. Well, she reads a few more minutes, closes her book, and turns off her lamp. Are you going to read much longer, she asked, because the light is bothering me. I'm reading Grisham, just a couple more chapters, I say. Does the light bother you? Of course it bothers me. And then Philip says, I think about saying, I would have already read those chapters, but I was distracted with the chewing. But I managed to resist this time. And then she says a couple sentences that are too quiet for me to hear. What? He says. She now repeats what she said, only at a lower volume. Then I say, are you mumbling, or did you have something you wanted me to say? Good night, Philip. He says, so I guess there won't be any sex tonight then? And then he says, I try to stop the words before they come out of my mouth, but too late. And then we both lay there staring up at the ceiling thinking, God help me understand this person lying next to me. So, it's a journey, isn't it? Communication. And then we have to communicate to the deepest needs of our spouse. Women want to know that they are loved and that they're important to you. That is the deepest need in their soul. They need to know that. That's what they need to know. Women want to know that they're loved and that they're important to you. This is crucial. And it's not instinctive for men, so you have to learn to speak our language. You married into the country, you have to learn to speak the language. And it might be a little bit of a challenge, but this is why marriage is for grown-ups, right? Might be a challenge, but you can do it. I promise you, you can do it. Philip, amazing man. But, he's had to work on this. We recently were visiting his brother, who is sort of the family historian. He took this job on himself, and he has done the family tree. He spent years and years putting this all together. He basically traced the family tree from the 1400s to the 1000s to the 400s, all the way back to Adam. I don't even know, but he did it. And there's this big old paper all about it. And so we went to visit him and to see all this, and he's kept some letters that were written in the family in generations. And one was written, I was reading some of these old letters written a couple hundred years ago. And one was written from a man in Philip's family to his new bride. And it was written in the most poetic, beautiful language. I'm just reading this going, oh, this is awesome. And Philip is looking over my shoulder like, what? And I go, no. People don't write like this anymore. Everything's, BTW and LOL. And it's like, people don't write like this. It's amazing. And my heart's just beating. I don't even know this man. I'm reading the letter. I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. So I think that was a little bit of a, Philip went, oh, she thinks this is amazing. And so he decided to take it upon himself to write me, keep in mind, a love letter in language that he would normally not use. All right, but he's trying to speak to the deepest needs of my soul. He's trying to communicate in a way that keeps my heart open. So I'm going to read this letter to you. And he gave this to me on my 29th wedding anniversary, and he planned this whole amazing day, and in the middle of this day, he gave me this letter. And he says, my lovely Holly. He's decided that's what he's calling me from now on. My lovely Holly. He said, I've been reflecting over the past several days about how very much I love you. Attempts to describe the depth of my love for you with any accuracy are a trying challenge. And yet, while this seems like an impossible task to achieve, I am compelled to describe to you with some measure of precision how entirely in love with you I am. I once thought I loved another before you, but judging from my present feelings, I recognize now that I've been a stranger to that deep, burning passion of love which now takes paramount residence in my thoughts and desires. You may wonder why I could love you with such intensity. I love you because of your joyful approach to life, your passion to accomplish great things, your character, your beautiful blue eyes, your blonde hair, and now I'm going to skip some bits, and says you have been my wife for 29 years, and these years have been the happiest of my life. I can't tell you how blessed I feel to have my best friend by my side. When I first met you, I recognized that you were perfect. You are perfect, and you have loved me far more perfectly than you could know. You inspire me to love others with more of my heart. Thank you for your willingness to inspire me in a way that causes me to rise up to the level in reaching accomplishments in my life. And here we are as we begin our 4th decade together. You still leave me shivering with love, partly because of the temperature you keep the thermostat at our home, but nonetheless, love plays the major part in this reaction. This is our love story to write. It's our story to complete. Let us write it with style. Let's write the most exciting love story. I will always love you, no matter what happens through thick and thin. I will be absolutely true and faithful to you forever. I will grow old with you. You are my best friend and soulmate, and I will love you until the end of our lives. And if heaven allows, I'll be with you for eternity. Your loving husband. I know. So don't hate him, men. Some of you are like, oh. This is the only time I've ever heard him talk like that. I'm just saying. But it did something for me. I'll never lose that letter. Right? And so don't hate him, men, for that. And girls, he's mine. Anyway. So women want to be talked to. They want to be told they're loved and they're important. And men, what they need is to know that they're respected for who they are and what they do. They need to feel and know that you admire them. And listen, if you can't respect in a moment his action, respect his intentions or improvements or his effort. Respect. Men need to feel that they're your hero. That's the hole in their heart. They need to feel that you admire them. And then even on a broader scale, women, the men that you work with, the boys that you're raising, your husband, your father, you'll never get along with any man in your life without respect. It's their number one need. Okay, so communication. In communication, obviously, our words matter. We communicate with tone, with our body language, and with our words. And in 1 Peter 3:10, it says this, "For whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech." Another translation of that says, do you really love life? Do you want to be happy? Then stop saying cruel things. See, I want to love married life and I want to see good days, so I have to pay attention to the words coming out of my mouth. And sometimes things just slip out that might not seem cruel or evil in the moment, but over time they start to hurt. Things like, all right then, you can do it from now on. Or, would you just get to the point? Okay, I'm sorry, let's just forget about it. Or, you should call a plumber, because he'll know what to do. Or, you forgot to bring it home again? Little hurtful things that just peck away. You need to do it differently. Why do you always do it that way? And remember, once you say it, it's out there. And you actually can't get it back. So think about the damage the missile that you're about to launch might cause. I mean, and you might say, I'm sorry, and I didn't mean it. And I'm sure you are sorry. But words can't be taken back. Words can only be forgiven. One recent study of marital conflict said that one verbal missile can tear apart and take away 20 acts of kindness. 20 to 1 ratio. Now, I love M&Ms, especially the peanut ones, back when I used to eat a bunch of that stuff. And I could eat one bag really quickly, like in about 35 seconds. 35 seconds to polish off a bag of fat, sugar, and calories, and that would take me about 30 minutes of exercise to work off that one bag of M&Ms, not to mention the hours of detox your body has to do. And this is like a verbal missile. We can throw a verbal missile out in a matter of seconds, but it might take years to work it off. Most of the time we are more polite to strangers and acquaintances than our spouse. It shouldn't be that way. Ephesians 4:29 says, don't use foul or abusive language. It is shocking sometimes for me to overhear conversations I'll be sitting in a restaurant or in line somewhere, conversations between married people, the names they call each other, or the tone that they use. What are you building? It says, don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. Proverbs 18:21 says, words kill, words give life. See, they're either poison or good fruit. You get to choose. So there are words that you should not be saying. The cruel, evil, those words. And then there are words that you should be saying. There are words that you can use to build your relationship. There was this couple who were celebrating their golden wedding anniversary, 50 years. And the husband was asked the secret to their successful marriage. And he was telling this person that I was raised in an orphanage. I had no idea about how to do family. I'd never seen healthy family. And I was afraid that I was going to mess this up. And so, because I married Sarah and she's beautiful, and I was afraid I was going to mess it up because I'd never seen how to be married. And he loved his new young wife, Sarah. And then he said that at the wedding, that Sarah's father pulled him to the side and handed him a gift. And he said, within this gift is all you really need to know in order to have a happy marriage. And he said, I just was nervous as I was unwrapping it. And then I opened the box, and inside was this large gold watch. And when I looked at that gold watch, written across the face of that watch were these words: say something nice to Sarah. And I just thought, what can we do to remind ourselves? Maybe we need to put a little alarm on our phone that just beeps every 6 hours. Say something nice to whoever you need to do in your world. Because words change everything. Communicate the important messages, the nice things. Maybe things like, you're amazing. You're beautiful. I miss you. I love you. I admire you. I believe in you. There was this movie, came out a long time ago, probably before most of you were born. There's a movie called Love Story. And one of the very famous slogans from that movie was, love is never having to say you're sorry. It's a bunch of nonsense. Because love is being the first person to say you're sorry. Love is being humble enough to say, I'm sorry. Can we start over? Can we do it better? I'm sorry. And here's a little bonus thing for men. Here's how to get some bonus points, okay? Here's something you can say, be amazing. You can say this: honey, is there anything that you'd like to talk about? Because I'd love to hear it. Just throwing that out there for free, trying to help a brother out. Okay. So there are words that you can say that tear down and words that build, and then there are just some questions you can ask, because questions show interest, questions show concern, questions show that you care. And so maybe you want to just take down some of these questions. Use these in a conversation that you might be having with the person that you're dating or one day will date, or the person you're married to. Or even someone in your family or a friend. It's like, what makes you feel afraid? What makes you feel the most alive? What are the dreams in your heart? And have they changed? What is it that I do or say that makes you feel respected? What is it I do or say that makes you feel disrespected? What is it I do or say that makes you feel loved and cherished and valued? And what is it that I do or say that makes you feel unloved and uncherished? with your words, encourage their strengths. Listen, we all have weaknesses. And if all we do in our relationships is point out the weaknesses in the person we're with, you will tear this relationship apart. I am very aware of my weaknesses, and there are things I need to grow on. But let me just tell you, if I focus on my strengths, the marriage will be strong. If Philip focuses on his strengths, the marriage will be strong. If we focus on each other's strengths, the marriages will go strong. The enemy tries to point out the weaknesses until it brings division. Focus on their strengths. Encourage their strengths. Encourage their attempts at improvements. Encourage their past or present successes that have value. Hebrews 3:13 says this, encourage one another daily as long as it is called today. So here's your homework. Before this day is up, apologize. Apologize to your spouse, to the person you're dating, person in your world. Apologize today. Say something like, I'm sorry for the words I said that were hurtful. And then make a decision to never say cruel things. Just make a decision. You can control it. It says, and then maybe say something like, when I'm angry and frustrated, I'll think twice before I say something. And then commit to saying something nice. Commit to saying one encouraging thing. And then maybe some of you, you're listening to me right now and you're just thinking about what didn't work. The relationship failures. Or maybe you're in here and you're a single parent and you're recovering from a really bad situation. Or maybe you've just been single for a long time and you're feeling hopeless about the whole thing. All I want to tell you is that love works. Love works. It does work. Do not let the hopelessness of your situation or the hopelessness of somebody else's situation influence you. Influence how you see love, how you see relationships. You keep going. Does that make sense? And I know that building a marriage, building a relationship can be hard. I know it can be. Moments of amazing and moments of hard all mixed together. And sometimes you just wonder if you're going to do it, if you can make it. We had those moments. And all I know is that if Philip and I did not have a full-on engaged relationship with Jesus, committed to him and his way, I'm not so sure what we'd have done in those early years. Marriage isn't designed for two people. It's designed for three. You, him, the Holy Spirit. Jesus in the midst of your relationship. That is the threefold cord that cannot be broken or cannot be shaken.